Okay, we're getting a little bit of a pullback. You're getting a lot of red bubbles, and I think it really is decision time for Bitcoin now, because either we're going to break above the all-time high here, as you can see, or we're going to break down. Now, the problem is if we break down, then we've actually put in a lower high. So you've got a higher high here and you've got a lower high here, which could mean that we're going to significantly break down and take the lows. But if we do manage to put in a higher high and we do manage to break this level over here, then I'm going to show you a whole lot of indicators why I think that's going to be the trigger, not only for Bitcoin price discovery, but actually for Altseason. Now, I use the word Altseason very, very lightly because I think it's become one of those words that it's become like a swear word in crypto. But I do think that if we break this level over here, I'm going to show you why I think it is going to actually lead us into a period where alts outperform Bitcoin for the first time in the cycle. So if that sounds good to you, I need you to do a couple of things. The first thing I need you to do is obliterate the subscribe button. Whoa, okay, there we go. You know exactly what you're doing. Also, obliterate the like button. Let's get the show on the road, guys. Let's go. Big show. 𝗙𝗘𝗅𝗙𝗘𝗃𝗍, rise and shine. 𝗙𝗙𝗅𝗙𝗃, rise and shine. Not the best day we've ever had. It's a bit of a red day, but you know what? Not the end of the world. And I'll tell you why it's not the end of the world. Even though the moves down from the altcoins are slightly down, etc., I wouldn't be too alarmed. And I'll tell you why I wouldn't be too alarmed. Because if you look at this run has been such an aggressive run. I mean, you've had Bitcoin up in 36 days. You've had Bitcoin up 37%. And that's not the whole story. The whole story is that if you look at ETH, in the same 36 days, ETH is up 81.96%, so 82%. And actually what that does is it makes what they call the post-Liberation Day rebound almost as fast as the COVID bounce. The only difference is at this time, the Fed didn't inject money. So basically what we're seeing is that the market, when it recovers from these anomalies, and remember when we talk about these anomalies, because I'm going to show you another chart later which talks about recoveries from these anomalies. When we talk about those charts, in fact, let me actually let me not jump that chart. You can watch that chart at the end. It's like the last chart I'm going to show you guys. It's one of the best charts out there. But what you can see is that when we recover from these anomalies, the bounces can be absolutely amazing, right? Now, the thing now is that Bitcoin really has to make a decision. And I mean, the whole market really has to make a decision. And the reason why it really needs to make a decision now is because what we know is that a lot of this bounce was actually fueled by a short squeeze, specifically on ETH, but also big time on Bitcoin. This bounce was really fueled by a short squeeze. Now it really is the decision time for Bitcoin, right? Because why is it decision time? Number one, it has to make a decision as to whether it's going to break the all-time high and go into price discovery, or whether it's going to break down from here and give us a lower high, which is not great because that would probably take us to a lower low if this trend actually stays intact. And so really we are now in crunch time, specifically when it comes to ETH. So now I'll tell you why I say specifically when it comes to ETH. When it comes to Bitcoin, we can say that this latest run, this 40% run, was actually fueled by spot buying. It was a lot filled by spot buying. We know that because we actually looked at the indicators. You can also see that when you look here, there's no leverage. So the pump, there hasn't been leverage for a long time. You can see most of the days, actually, the leverage was actually like almost negative. And not only that, but I looked at some other indicators that showed that this was driven by spot. And also, if you look at the ETFs, you can kind of see that there was tons of demand. So like you had a lot of Bitcoin buying in this pump, massive Bitcoin buying, right? We had some really big days. And that's on top of Michael Saylor buying and Jack Mallers is 21 actually buying. So the Bitcoin pump may be slightly less fueled by a short squeeze, but on ETH, it's a completely different story. So the ETH pump, and it was a much bigger pump. This was primarily fueled by a short squeeze. And if you look at the corresponding numbers on the ETH ETFs, the numbers don't support any of this. In fact, almost negative in the last couple of weeks. And that just kind of shows that there wasn't as much spot support for ETH as much as there was short selling. And so now we get to decision time. Either we now accelerate or consolidate, then accelerate and break the all-time high, or we could be in for a little bit of a problem, and Ben Cowan's thesis may actually play out, and we'll talk about that in a couple of seconds. So I think the next question is, why is the market consolidating today? The answer is, number one, we've had a massive pump, and when you have a massive pump, and you can see the massive pump was really up only for the last 36 or 37. In the last 36 days, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that doesn't count, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days, which were red. And the green days were viciously green. So that's the first reason why I think this is actually bouncing. The second reason why I think the market is pulling back slightly today, and you can see it's also slightly the S&P, is actually because not related at all to crypto. I think it's related to the bond yields. So if you look at the bond yields, look at the US 10-year Treasury yield, 4.5%. This is crazy. As 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝐶 later says, he says, another day, another move in yields. The last time bond yields were this high, President Trump paused tariffs for 90 days. Now trade deals have been reached, and the yields are still not falling. And so it seems like Trump is caught between a rock and a hard place. We know that he wanted to reduce the rates that the US pays on debt and force the Fed to effectively lower its rates. But just look at what the bond rates are doing. Now, I've tried to find the reasons why the bond rates are exploding. Look at the 30-year. The 30-year is nearly at 5%. I just want to show you, by going on to the monthly, I want to show you something, like when the last time the bond rates were this high. Let me just quickly put that into auto. So let's go back to when the last time bond rates were consistently this high, talking about 2007, before the housing collapse. That's the last time it was this high. So I think the bond rates are confusing everyone. I couldn't find out any reason for it. Also, when I started watching some of the content with 𝗟𝗏𝗪, he says he used to be a good bond trader, but just listen to how these bond markets are confusing even the best of the best here. I mean, just listen to this.
I guess what I'm asking is,
you're asking me about bonds, and
yes. Go ahead. Tell me what you think of bonds.
I used to be really good at bonds.
You're the best in the market, period.
I'm fucking atrocious at them now. I don't understand bonds anymore because they're not working according to the business cycle. They're not working according to the oil price. They're not working according to inflation. And it's not like all of the auctions are failing. So it's not like it's a lack of buyers. So I don't really understand what is going on. It feels to me that liquidity is not in the bond market and they need to do this SLR thing, which is
so not even 𝗟𝗏𝗪 knows. And actually tomorrow we're going to have a dedicated show around these bond rates because we have to understand exactly what's happening around the bond rates. If you want to read more about bonds, again, in Good Morning Crypto, in our free newsletter, which you can get by just going to the bottom here and clicking on the Good Morning Crypto show link, then you'll get an interpretation of what's going on with the actual bond yields. Remember, this is absolutely free. You can get it by just going to, let me quickly just show you exactly where to subscribe to that. Hold on a second. Let's quickly just find the show. Hold on. I have to find this for you because otherwise people don't subscribe to the right thing here. So here it is. Okay, all you need to do is you need to go to this over here. You need to go to this link over here that says Good Morning Crypto. Or if you want Daily Candle, if you like charts, just click on that. And just, you can see that'll tell them that Rand sent you to the newsletter. And we're trying to beat Sheldon and Carl and everybody else. All right, so that is the bond yields. I don't really want to spend too much time on the bond yields because that is tomorrow's show. We've got Alex Kruger on the show tomorrow. He says, just to quote, he says, don't worry about it. Don't worry. He says, okay, I don't have his tweet, but he basically says, don't worry about the bond yields just yet. Don't worry about the bond yields just yet. What I want to worry about is whether Bitcoin is going to go up or down in its next move. And by the way, let me know in the chat if you think it's going to go up or down in its next move, because there's two schools of thought here. One school of thought, Ben Cowan, remember he said, we're not going to put in a higher high and we're going to break down. And he thinks if that happens, obviously all the alts will actually reject against Bitcoin. Then the other school of thought is what we wrote about in Good Morning Crypto a few days ago, where it says from a bullish perspective, if Bitcoin continues tracking the M2 chart, it could hit a new all-time high between May 26, which is in 11 days, and June 6, which is in 21 days. reaching 115 or somewhere over there in an 11-day span. Not an exact science, obviously. That's like when they say not financial advice. So decision time for Bitcoin. Either Bitcoin is going up and following the M2, in which case it's going to make a new all-time high in the next 3 weeks, or it's going down and it's going to do what Ben Cowan actually said. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, as Kaduna says, he says, I believe the M2 money supply more than I believe any bro on Twitter drawing random lines. But hey, we can't just base everything here on one chart. We know there could be a lot of surprises. I must say, I'm leaning towards up. I don't know if I'm leaning towards up because that's what my emotions are telling me to lean towards up. But I do think, as I said, as I've broken down in a lot of the last shows, I do think it's up until about August. And then I think after August, I think maybe there's something else to talk about. As I was saying in the beginning of the show, if we do break the 100, if we go back up and we get into price discovery and we do land up breaking that 100,000, I do believe that we're actually going to get into some kind of alt season. Now, I use the word alt season very, very, very lightly because usually you'd use the word alt season when all the alts land up outperforming Bitcoin. But I think that that's not a reality anymore, and specifically because there's so many coins out there now that you actually don't... Guys, firstly, what do you think of this champion merch? So this is given to me by a bunch of people called 𝗵𝗏𝗏𝗏.com. There's a link below if you guys want to check them out. But they got this shirt. They got a whole lot, but this is the one that I've got. They send me this one. Fuck nudes, send contract address. Let me know what you think of it. Anyway, every time they do a drop, by the way, they only do, I think they do, Josh, what do they do? 400, they do 420. They only do every drop of this is only 420. So you can imagine a bunch of stoneheads who actually do this. I'll send you, tomorrow I'll wear some of the other shirts that they sent me. Anyway, as I was saying, I digress. If we break above this, I'm going to show you why I think the alts are actually going to outperform Bitcoin in the next run of the next leg of the run. And it's not a coincidence. I'm actually going to show you a whole lot of data points that actually shows that in this next leg up, we could actually get the breakdown of Bitcoin dominance, right? So you can see that Bitcoin dominance has already started to break down. We're slightly up today, but in general, we've broken down below this trend line that we've been on in this bad period since December when we got back from vacation. So we broke down, and now the question is whether we'll have a real breakdown. Now, when I say a real breakdown, I'm talking about something like this. So I'm talking about like a breakdown that looks like from 72 to 35, or from 73 to 39. Like those are the breakdowns that I'm talking about. The question is whether we're going to get a breakdown that is going to effectively do something like that. So, So basically do something like where you have a serious breakdown into alt season. And it could happen. I'll tell you why I think it could happen. So it comes from this theory over here, which we actually tested today. So it says the bull is mostly Bitcoin pumping and altcoin suffering. Only when Bitcoin starts its second leg into new highs, historically dominance drops and altcoins perform. And it makes perfect logical sense. Why? Because the first time it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it's happening. The second pump into price discovery, it's like, okay, we've now clearly taken out the new high, and it's time. It gives people confidence and they start allocating money elsewhere. So he went and plotted all of this on a chart, and it clearly shows that from 2017, the first correction, after the first correction after price discovery, that's when Bitcoin dominance breaks down. It broke down over here. It broke down over here. And now potentially, it could break down for a third time. Now, remember the data set here is we've only had 2 successful data sets like this. And this is the third. Okay, so it's not like we can say this is gospel, but when you combine it with a whole lot of other charts that I'm going to show you, you'll actually see. And we tested it ourselves. We went back to 2017. We looked for the first correction after price discovery. And that is actually when Bitcoin dominance actually breaks down. And when Bitcoin dominance actually breaks down, when you get that breakdown, that's when you get the massive moves, right? So to give you an idea of like the massive moves, like in 2017, the top 10, excluding Bitcoin and stables, went up 958% over 52 days. And in the 2021, they doubled in less than 48 days. So massive moves when that actually happens. The second chart that shows me that maybe what you want is you want confluence. You want multiple charts to tell you the same thing. If you have multiple charts that tell you the same thing, then you have to listen to it. So The second chart is actually a chart which is linked to that, and that's the ETH BTC chart. You know that there's been a massive pump in ETH BTC, right? And it's the first time in, well, let me show you this. Actually, let me show you this. I actually have to find this chart for you. So it's the first time since May. So this was April 2024, 1st of May 2024. That was the first time that ETH had put in a higher high against Bitcoin. So the last time. Because after May 2024, since then, ETH has never been able to put in a higher high against Bitcoin. There hasn't been one single higher high. Even like I put the cursor here, I was like, oh, please just tell me there was a high. I mean, you can see it missed it by like, yeah, I mean, I'll zoom in for you so you guys can see it, especially the guys on mobile phones. I was like, maybe it, no. Since May 2024, we haven't had one single glimmer of hope, higher high on ETH versus BTC. Now, this time, we've got the higher high for the first time. Look at that. We've got, there's the high, there's the higher high. So we've got the higher high on the ETH BTC chart for a long period, the first time in a long period of time. On top of that, if you zoom out of this, what you can see is that this shape over here is a parabola that has been going on for about, I mean, I'm not good at drawing parabolas. Let's see if I can find a tool to help us. Forget about tool. Let me draw it with a brush because I'm so bad at drawing. But imagine that. Okay, I mean, wow, like a bad parabola. But you know what? This guy actually draws it a lot better. So if you look at that parabola, that's a 3-year downward parabolic. It's a 3-year parabolic downward trend that has been broken. Now, I think the best way to fix this is to actually go like this. So let's invert this. Okay, so let's invert scale. Okay, now imagine that this was an altcoin that had been running for 3 years. Okay, and now looks like it's starting to break down, right? That's probably a mirror image of the Bitcoin dominance chart. So let's quickly look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. Probably looks very similar. There it is. Okay, I've gone on to the monthly here, which was a mistake. Okay, so you can see it's very much that. So that's why I'm coming back to it, because I'm saying that this parabolic move, this break of the parabola on the ETH BTC. Now, let me just get it back to the other side, so it's not inverted anymore. Shows you that we could have maybe broke down this broke down, and that is usually the beginning of alt season. Usually, I hate using the word alt season. The period where altcoins outperform Bitcoin. So usually that actually starts off with ETH outperforming and the majors outperforming. That's what usually happens. Dennis was right to actually point it out. And yeah, as this guy says, ETH BTC has ended a 4-year parabola. And I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the wells and institutions actually accumulating any ETH, but who knows? Maybe that's going to actually come. The other thing actually came from 𝗂𝗡𝗃. I don't usually trust 𝗂𝗡𝗃 because this AI agent talks a lot of shit. Like this AI agent talks a lot of shit. But I mean there are agents, the AI agents that don't talk a lot of shit. I want to see if I can find one of them for you. Let me see if I can find one of them for you. I have to show you something. I have to actually show you. You want AI agents that don't talk a lot of shit, or you want an AI agent platform that doesn't talk a lot of shit, go and check this one out. It's 𝗏𝗏𝗏.cloud. It's the Shopify of, it's not exactly the Shopify of crypto. It's more a marketplace for AI agents. So basically, if you want like an AI agent for social media, you want an AI agent for a specific task, you go to 𝗏𝗏𝗏.cloud. There's a link below, by the way. Well, I mean, we'll have to put a link below because I didn't think I was actually going to go here. But you can actually see it. Now, the reason I digressed again. Today's one of those days where I digress. It happens terribly when you've got ADD. I try and control my ADD with these balls, but I mean, you can see my brain goes to 8,000 different places. Anyway, it's a curse and it's a blessing. I can think about 10,000 things. Anyway, where was I? I digressed. So 𝗂𝗡𝗃 posted this. Again, as I said, I don't trust 𝗂𝗡𝗃. I do trust the agents that come from 𝗏𝗏𝗏.cloud. Go and check them out. If you want specialized agents for specialized things, this is like almost like the Shopify / Airbnb of agents, because you can actually get your own agents here. Anyway, and you can get revenue share, you see? You can get revenue share here. Go and check it out. You need to go and check out as much as you can. Now, 𝗂𝗡𝗃 which is an agent that I don't trust because it talks a lot of shit, said ETH BTC volume flip. Now, the volume flip is something very interesting. When ETH volume flips BTC volume, even for one day, they call it an ETH BTC volume flip. Now, one of our researchers, you know him, his name is Alex. He does a show here on Saturdays. Very smart guy. He's going to be doing a lot more shows on Banter. I digress. As you can see, he said in an uptrend, every time the ETH volume flips the BTC volume, in an uptrend, it's a real signal. In a downtrend or choppy market, doesn't matter, but in an uptrend. So the question is, if we are now in an uptrend, and it seems we are, then it's actually a real signal. So that's another data point to actually look for. So we're talking about dominance, we're talking about ETH, and then specifically when we're talking about the altcoins themselves, you can see here that others versus BTC, which is the top 10, the others, the altcoins excluding the major altcoin, the others, they have just bounced on a 10-year trend line. So 10-year trend line, they're now at its lowest point. If they break down from here, it's not impossible to break down from here, but they would be breaking down below a 10-year trend line. So far, it looks like we've just had a successful bounce. But I mean, it doesn't mean that it just, from a chart point of view, would have to see, this would be quite a massive breakdown. Also, in the same vein of altcoins, if you take the total market cap and you subtract BTC, you subtract SOL and you subtract BNB, because those are the three strongest pairs against Bitcoin, and of course USDT. You want to get rid of the US dollar. And you divide that by Bitcoin, that's also on a major support level and just bounced off a major support level, right? Same thing with Total 3, just bounced off an 8-year trend line. Literally, just bounced off an 8-year trend line. So what it feels like is that a lot of charts are coming together to tell us that this is a bounce time for altcoins. Again, I just want to recap some of these, and I'm going to take you to a very smart chart in a second. One is the Bitcoin dominance chart, and it's not the dominance chart on its own. It's a dominance chart paired with the fact that Bitcoin's entered its first correction post price discovery, which is typically in the last two cycles when the Bitcoin dominance broke down. Then we got the ETH BTC chart, first breaking of the parabola and the first higher high since May 2024. Signs of life, or maybe just a fake out and a short squeeze. Third one is you're looking at the altcoin charts against Bitcoin, and all of them look for a bounce. So all of them here are basically calling for a bounce. The next one is it's not a crypto chart, but it is a chart that really makes sense. And it's the chart of actually gold versus silver. Now, I know that sounds like a crazy chart, but hear me out here about the thesis behind this chart, okay? So what is the chart of gold versus silver? Gold has always been the safe haven, and silver has always been like the second option to the safe haven. Now, the gold and silver typically move in a certain, move as pairs, not exactly, but with a certain correlation. Gold's gone on an absolute pump. Now, when does gold go on an absolute pump? Usually gold goes on an absolute pump during periods when there's peak uncertainty. And so if you look, and then what happens is silver doesn't actually follow. And then the thing is, there's a divergence between gold and silver. Now, when have those divergences between gold and silver actually happened? In the 1990 and 1991 recession, during COVID and during the trade war, the gold-silver pairs peaked. And it peaked with one of these daily wick candles. You can see there's one there, and there's one, monthly wick candles. Here, and here. So here's the chart over here. You can kind of see it. Look at that. Here you can actually see the wick. You can actually see the wicks a bit better. And you can see we've had 3 or 4 times. It's been 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, where gold has significantly decoupled from silver. Now, every single time that's happened, it's marked a top. And after that, over here, you now get this period where there it is there, there it is there, and there it is there. And generally, those have marked periods where the stock market and risk assets have really rallied after that. Now, I want to take you back to the discussion around bonds. I don't know if you recall, but we said that bond rates are currently, they feel toppy. They feel like they're at levels that haven't been seen in long periods of time, since as we said, 2008. that could mean that bond prices are actually topping. And if bond prices are actually topping, so if bond yields are actually topping, look at what happened the last time bond yields hit 5% and started to drop. The stock markets and Bitcoin went on an absolute tear. So now you got this confluence of the bond yields, and I started the show talking about the bond yields specifically so I could bring you back to this, right? I wanted to bring you back to this. Right now, everyone is panicking about bond prices. Usually when everybody panics about something, that usually marks a top or near a top. And we know Trump wants to get this down. The last time that those actually broke down, that it led to risk assets running like absolute wildfire and the bond rates actually coming down. Both of those times, it actually coincided with the top for the gold versus silver uncertainty index. In normal times, gold and silver work to a certain correlation, but there's certain times where people go all in on gold when they get panicked, like COVID, like the trade war, like the recession. They go into gold, and usually that marks the top for the gold-silver indicator, which coincides with the bond indicator, which, by the way, coincides with this decision point on Bitcoin and the breakdown of Bitcoin dominance and this crazy breakout of the ETH BTC chart and a bounce on 10-year trend lines on certain altcoin pairs. So let me bring it all back to, and by the way, there's another indicator. We'll talk about that in a second. So let me bring it all back for you guys. We're here. We've just had a massive rally. You've seen the rally. It's, as I said, it was the sharpest rally since COVID. It was the quickest rally since COVID on the markets, and it's a massive rally. Now we're at a decision point. Higher high and price discovery, or break down and maybe sweep the lows. If we go down, yes, we could sweep the lows, and Benjamin Cowen's theory comes into play. If we track the money supply, however, and we do break the all-time high, history tells us that this time when we break the all-time high, it's going to be the alts that are going to be the ultimate beneficiaries and not actually Bitcoin. And usually, just before an alt season starts to come, what you start getting is the on-chain narrative starting to pump. It's not coincidental. Every single time before we get a run, the on-chain narrative starts to pick up steam. Remember yesterday I did a show about LauncherCoin. By the way, let's go quickly look and see how LauncherCoin is actually doing today. LauncherCoin. Oh my God. Almost $300 million market cap. So you can see that there's been this shift. We had this on I don't know if you guys remember, but we had this on NFTs and we had this on meme coins. And every time before the start of an altcoin cycle, there's some new narrative on chain that actually picks up. Maybe this is our new narrative, and maybe this is just another sign that we're going to go up again. So let me know what you think in the comments. Also, remember that tomorrow is the last day. Today and tomorrow, you got 24 hours to sign up to Blowfin to get the $5,000. Basically, there's a link below. The link is, just have a look here, Blowfin. Here, you sign up today, but tomorrow you could have $5,000. There's going to be two more $5,000 today and tomorrow. So if you signed up, I've got a user ID thing. And by the way, Blowfin is an amazing exchange where you can trade spot, you can trade futures, you can really one of the most reliable exchanges out there. And I also know that this exchange doesn't have these crazy wicks and shenanigans. So this is an exchange that I really trust. Now, if you signed up and your account number is 1982679893. I'm going to highlight it so you can see it over here. Email us at giveaways@cryptobanter.com with the same email that you opened the account with. Make sure you also put money into your account because a lot of you are botting the system. And you will get $5,000 before the show tomorrow. That's the easiest way to make $5,000 before the end of the show. Anyway, I will see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, beautiful people, trade well, my friends.